Sullivan and Cromwell taking a victory lap for Q1 is peak banker delusion.
They just advised on a $250 billion deal. You can't call that delusion just because you're jealous of the fee pool.
It's Elon Musk moving money from his left pocket to his right. SpaceX buying xAI isn't real M&A, it's corporate musical chairs.
A pocket with $250 billion in it still pays a massive retainer.
Fine, we'll tear apart that ridiculous structure in a second. The rundown. So Sullivan and Cromwell is already taking a victory lap for Q1. They're practically printing t-shirts over there.
As they should. $250 billion is a staggering number. SpaceX buying xAI completely defined the quarter.
Maya, it's Elon Musk taking money out of his left pocket and putting it into his right pocket. You can't call that a real market signal.
I'm not calling it a market signal. I'm calling it a fee bonanza. They're getting paid a fortune to walk paper across a living room, but S&C is using it to claim we have a rebounding, top-heavy M&A market.
Which is completely ridiculous. It's a sample size of one guy. If you want a real top-heavy signal, look at Danaher dropping $9.9 billion on Masimo.
Real money, real companies, no shared board members. What else caught your eye today?
Soluna Holdings, they just finalized buying the Briscoe Wind Farm in West Texas for $53 million, 150 megawatts, pure vertical integration play.
I read that press release. They're screaming from the rooftops about immediate year one adjusted EBITDA growth, which, as we know, is banker speak for please ignore the massive capital expenditure required to actually run a wine farm.
Oh, come on. If you're running power-hungry operations, owning your own grid is basically mandatory now. It's a genuinely smart hedge.
I'll believe the EBITDA when it hits the 10K. Let's talk about Värde Partners and Klarna, $1.7 billion significant risk transfer.
You always light up for a risk transfer.
Because it's brilliant, Klarna is offloading loan risk to free up capital without actually selling the underlying assets. It's structural gymnastics. $1.7 billion is a massive flex for Värde.
Speaking of flexing, or maybe just clinging to the past, did you see the drama with the bridge?
The Italian oat milk guys?
Plant-based dairy, yes. The founding family just sold a controlling stake to Ambienta, but they refused to make a clean exit. They're reinvesting alongside the new owners. I used to see this all the time. Founders get a big check, but then panic about what they're going to do on a Tuesday.
That's entirely unfair. Sometimes they just believe in the upside of the new management.
$50 says they're fighting with the new board by Thanksgiving.
I'm not taking that bet.
Smart. So what are we watching for tomorrow?
Keep your eyes on the NASDAQ. Rival and RTB Digital finally got shareholder approval for their merger. We should see the combined ticker debut.
Plus, we need to watch the regulatory wires on U.S. Bancorp's $1 billion swoop for BTIG. Regulators have been awfully quiet on that one. Let's get into the weeds on why that matters right after this. The big one. $250 billion. I just need to say the number out loud so my brain can actually process it.
Your banker brain is short-circuiting over the fees. Admit it.
I mean, Sullivan and Cromwell is definitely popping champagne right now. They just locked up the entire first quarter Global League tables with one signature.
Which is hilarious to me. S&C representatives are out here giving quotes to the press about a rebounding, top-heavy M&A market.
You don't think it's rebounding?
Nate, it's Elon Musk moving $250 billion from his left pocket to his right pocket. This isn't a market rebound. It's related party corporate incest on a planetary scale.
Oh, come on, that's highly unfair. SpaceX legitimately needs xAI's compute power for orbital logistics, and xAI needs SpaceX's infinite capital. It's vertical integration. It makes strategic sense.
Vertical integration? Soluna buying a $53 million wind farm in Texas to power their operations. That is vertical integration. It actually drives year one EBITDA. This SpaceX deal is just a bailout. Look at the valuation. $250 billion? Based on what revenue?
Based on the fact that whoever builds AGI wins capitalism, Maya, you're thinking too small.
I'm thinking like someone who reads footnotes. xAI was burning cash, and SpaceX is the only entity rich enough to absorb it without a massive shareholder revolt. I would pay good money to read the fairness opinions on this. They must be absolute works of fiction.
I'm just imagining the risk factors section of that pitch deck.
It just says the word Mars in bold font over and over again.
Fair point, but you can't tell me Q1 is entirely a mirage. We have actual, normal corporate buyers doing massive deals.
You mean Danaher?
Exactly. Danaher buying Masimo for $9.9 billion. That is classic. Textbook healthcare consolidation. S&C advised on that too, by the way.
True. And I actually like the Danaher deal. It's steep, but Masimo fits perfectly into their portfolio. No left pocket, right pocket nonsense there. Just a clean exit.
Unlike the founding family of the bridge over in Italy. Did you see that gossip?
The plant-based milk guys?
Yeah, they sell a controlling stake to Ambienta, but they just couldn't let go. They opted to reinvest right alongside the new owners instead of making a clean break.
Seller's remorse before the ink is even dry. Classic founder syndrome.
Speaking of ink drying, we should probably talk about the financial sector, because U.S. Bancorp is trying to drop $1 billion on BTIG, and I'm looking closely at the regulatory wires.
Oh, I have a lot of thoughts on that one. If you think tech monopolies get scrutinized, wait until you see what happens when a bank tries to swallow a broker-dealer right now. Voices.
Reading this quote from Sullivan and Cromwell representatives this morning, and they are taking a massive victory lap. They're pointing to their dominant Q1 performance as proof of a rebounding, top-heavy M&A market.
Oh, please. They're basically claiming victory because Elon Musk moved money from his left pocket to his right pocket.
Hey, $250 billion is a big pocket, Maya.
It's the SpaceX and xAI deal. It's an internal transfer of wealth wearing a trench coat and calling itself M&A. Using that as proof of a rebounding market is just bad data.
Look, the former banker in me has to defend them. You still have to paper a $250 billion transaction. A fee is a fee. Plus, they had Danaher buying Masimo for $9.9 billion. The market is moving.
Sure, but I'm much more interested in what industry observers are saying about Soluna Holdings. They finalized their purchase of the Briscoe Wind Farm in Texas for $53 million. The quote floating around is that this calculated play for vertical integration will drive immediate year one adjusted EBITDA growth.
You know, I hate the phrase adjusted EBITDA. It just means earnings before bad stuff we don't want to talk about.
You're just being cynical. It's actually a really smart structure. Soluna builds green data centers, buying a 150 megawatt wind farm locks in their power supply. That's real vertical integration, not just a buzzword.
I don't know. I still think it's buzzword salad. I prefer my deals with a little more human drama anyway. Like the founding family of the bridge over in Italy. It's a plant-based dairy brand selling to Ambienta. They were supposed to make a clean exit but couldn't quite let go, so they opted to reinvest alongside the new controlling owners.
Founder attachment syndrome strikes again. It's so hard to hand over the keys.
Speaking of handing over keys, what are we watching tomorrow?
Keep an eye on the NASDAQ. RivFuel and RTB Digital are officially debuting their combined ticker. Also, watch the regulatory wires for U.S. Bancorp's pending $1 billion acquisition of BTIG. We'll see if any late-stage hurdles emerge. Spill the tea? I just cannot take this Sullivan and Cromwell victory lap seriously. They are bragging about dominating Q1, and it is entirely built on a technicality.
A $250 billion technicality, Maya. You cannot just ignore the SpaceX and xAI deal.
I can, and I will. It is Elon Musk moving money from his left pocket to his right pocket. How does that even count for the advisory league tables? They are acting like they pulled off some masterful, highly contested corporate takeover.
Oh, come on. If you are the advisor on a $250 billion transaction, you put it on the top of the slide deck. Period. Fees are fees. You think the partners care if it is just Elon negotiating with Elon in a mirror? The check clears exactly the same.
It is corporate theater. I actually read the filings. The structuring is basically just a giant internal asset transfer. Claiming this is proof of a rebounding M&A market is completely delusional.
Spoken like a true skeptic who never had to meet a quarterly revenue target. Look, if you want actual human drama, forget the tech billionaires. Let us talk about the Italian dairy sector.
Plant-based dairy. Do not get the European regulators mad at us.
Right, the oat milk mafia. The founding family of the bridge just sold controlling interest to Ambienta, but they rolled their equity instead of making a clean exit.
Classic founder attachment issues. I love it.
It is the ultimate, we want your buyout money, but we still want to tell you how to run the factory move. The private equity guys at Ambienta are going to have a very fun time at those board meetings.
Nothing says synergistic growth like a founder who refuses to leave the group chat, which actually brings up an interesting point about post-merger reality. We need to talk about what happens when RIVEWILE and RTB Digital finally debut their combined ticker on the Nasdaq tomorrow. Tomorrow's radar. Tomorrow's.
I'm setting an alert right now for the opening bell on that RIVEWILE and RTB Digital combined ticker.
You actually care about that debut?
Oh, come on. It's an ad tech crypto play hitting the Nasdaq. It has retail frenzy written all over it.
I'll take the under on that. I'm watching the regulatory wires tomorrow for U.S. Bancorp and BTIG.
A $1 billion bank tie-up. Snooze.
It's not a snooze. Regulators have been actively hostile. If a hurdle emerges at the 11th hour, that sets a massive precedent.
Okay, fair. But the real drama tomorrow is seeing if Sullivan and Cromwell put out another press release bragging about Q1.
Bragging about advising Elon Musk on selling xAI to himself.
$250 billion is still $250 billion, Maya. The league tables don't care whose pockets the money moved between.
True. Speaking of moving massive amounts of money around, did you see the risk transfer Värde Partners just pulled off with Klarna?